All right, good evening. The time being 7 PM, all members of the planning board being present, call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have three of these tonight. We'll do them one at a time here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 13th, 2024.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous.
I'd like to make another motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 3rd, 2024.
Motion made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous.
And I'd like to make a final motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 17th, 2024.
A motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Carry minutes. Moving on to agenda item B, committee reports, administrative actions. Any committee reports any of the members wish to make at this time?
No,
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Seeing none, we'll move on to town planners report. Ms. Lauder?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item of note, we have one new application public hearing for the September 23rd meeting. It'll be a family suite at 170 Charles Drive, and something that came in after I had finished my report to you folks. There will also be hearings for the zoning articles for town meeting. It's 2 citizens petitions, and then one that's sponsored by the town manager's office, and it's an effort to update the groundwater protection maps per EPA regulations. So that's just kind of they hand it to us and we fix it. Nothing terribly exciting. I'm going to skip over number 2 for just 1 second and move on to item number 3. There is an event hosted by the Tewksbury Historical Society holding a tribute to the propane gas explosion of 1972 at the library next Monday, September 16th at 7 p.m. This event includes a video presentation featuring 3 former Tewksbury firefighters, including former planning board member Bob Fowler, who experienced the event, interviewed by town historian Nancy Reed. And I've included a flyer for that in your materials. Next item, tomorrow morning, myself and the conservation agent Abby Mahoney will be giving a presentation at Advisors Living Real Estate at 725 Main Street. Again, Tuesday, September 10th at 9:30 a.m. We'll be presenting on zoning in town, wetland protection, and other timely topics such as the Mass Affordable Homes Act, which I highlighted last time with the introduction of ADUs and things like that. There is registration on the flyer that I included, and folks are welcome to attend that. And last item, jumping back to number 2. A couple of meetings ago, we had talked about coming up with some parameters for issuing exemptions for electronic message boards so that they don't have to come for signed special permits. And based on some of the feedback that I received from the board during our July meeting, I inserted some language in there to say that the menu board may not exceed 7 feet in height and each menu board panel may not exceed 12 square feet. And those are based on just the majority of the proposals that we've seen between Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks that have come through, which have been the ones have come for the electronic message board menus. Again, these are just suggestions based on what I've seen, and I'm happy to take any feedback from you folks. And obviously, we're too late for special town meeting, but that means that we can just kind of be very careful in crafting the language and bring it to May town meeting for consideration.
Okay. Well, if anybody has any suggestions, you can chew on this and then we can present them since we're not under the gun for
Right, exactly.
the next hearing. So, all right, very good, thank you. Moving on to, I'm sorry, did you want to say something about it now?
I was going to say, maybe for part of the discussion whenever it comes up, I know we've approved some menu boards recently, but I don't know if we have a log of other menu boards in town so we could see. In other words, I guess my only concern is, I just want to make sure if we do this that we're not putting anybody out of compliance if they want to replace their sign in the future, or at least would like
Sure.
to know, like if it's
No, that's fair.
One business, 3 businesses, 20 businesses.
Yeah.
You know, we just want to, obviously I'm hoping that this is in line with what we already have that has been approved by the board. That's all.
I can tell
When you say out of compliance, like, this is just so they won't have to come here. If they don't meet this, then they still have to come do it the way everybody's been doing it now.
Right.
So this is just to eliminate having to come in here.
Yeah, right, exactly. So if I may, perhaps, Mr. Ciampa, if you'll allow me, so is it more that if somebody has an existing menu board sign and they want to go a one-to-one replacement from static to electronic, seeing what the size of some of those are to ensure that we're not making it so anybody who tries to go for a in-kind replacement, that they're all going to have to come here anyway?
Right.
Thought, okay.
Yes, the in-kind replacements.
Okay, yep, I'll definitely look into that, see if we can get a little check
I
on,
mean, I'm sure there's bound to be a couple, but,
yeah.
you know,
If the
just-
vast majority fit these parameters, generally speaking, or some other, you know, quantifiable measures, then we should be okay. But yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Mr. Duffy?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And then one more thing, Ms. Lauder, is as I've mentioned to you in the past, is I would certainly like to see any menu boards follow the same rules as other signs, that they're turned in the off, like dark position when the business is closed. You know, and that maybe they dim between the hours or certain hours, maybe, you know, might be something we might want to consider. But certainly, let's have them off, because if, you know, if all of those signs are going to be switching from standard boards to LED lighting, you know, the LED lighting is still a relatively new, you know, relatively new lighting, and may have some issues going forward, so. And I guess, you know, I hate to say it, but it would be nice to be able to, if something wasn't working out for some reason, if there was a constant neighbor complaint or whatever for a flashing sign, or, you know, they're changing from hamburgers to breakfast sandwiches or whatever makes those signs flash back and forth, you know, that you or the board would be able to, you know, maybe add some conditions at some point in time.
Sure.
In other words, it's not a forever blanket approval
Right.
of that sign, no matter what. If we can,
Sure.
if you could put that into a sentence.
Yeah, I think
that would be
the
great.
intention would be to bring the conditions that would typically come from signed special permits that the board would implement would go into the administrative approval too.
Thank you.
So I have a question, Ms. Lauder. Do we want to include in there something about heights or height minimums?
Minimums or maximums?
Minimum, so that at least if a truck wants to go in, they know the height, they don't
Oh, for the
hit the
bar?
overhead. Yeah, because I've seen the one, a couple of them have them marked, like one's 9 foot, the one out on Chandler Street.
Yep.
And the other ones are higher, as you
Sure.
know, depending on where you go, but if you wanted to add that on as far as the dimensions and make sure the height restrictions are sufficient enough or identified enough on the board
Sure.
or the sign, that's all.
All right. All right, so with that, we'll move to agenda item C, which is 611 Main Street, use and solar special permit, site plan review, land disturbance permit. Do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Do we have somebody for 611?
Yes.
Grab a couple more seats.
Once you're settled, give your names for the record. The floor is yours.
We are Michelle and Al Salas with Eco Auto, and we also have part of our engineering
Yeah,
team.
hi, Patrick McCarty, McCarty Engineering.
Have you pull that over towards, yeah,
Sure,
perfect.
Patrick McCarty, McCarty Engineering.
All right, the floor is
Good
yours.
afternoon. Well, we are back. Thank you again for receiving us and with open arms. What we are proposing, we are expanding into a sustainability center on 611, our property being Eco Auto on 623 Main Street. That with the help of this board, we've been able to redevelop from a abandoned building from 6 years to what it's Eco Auto today, a sustainability transportation hub into what we've developed. Part of the growth that we've been experiencing is we've been presented with an opportunity to develop what you see, what we submitted as a sustainability center. And what we're asking of this board is for a concession for us to build this dream right here in Tewksbury, and for us to continue to spread a message of sustainability in transportation that we have been. We're going to be incorporating solar into our building and infrastructure to be able to reduce our carbon footprint all the way to zero, from the vehicles that we sell to also the vehicles that, how we're getting that power. We are also incorporating more charging stations on site. The goal being that we're already talking to Mass CEC and other Massachusetts hubs to continue to spread that message. And we need the help of the board to do so. With your help today and granting us just the opportunity to do it. Obviously, I'm sure that there's details, but we have our financing already lined up. Everything is ready to go. We have the property already under contract. So just like you saw with Eco Auto at 623, we would be moving forward very quickly in developing it, but obviously without cutting any corners and making sure that we do it right. So if you could help us, we're game. And thank you.
Thank you for the intro. Al, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll go to the podium so I can
Just take
describe
the
plan.
microphone when you go up.
What's-
If you want
Just take the microphone off when you go up so you can use it.
Thank you. So good to be here. It's been quite a few years since I've been in front of the board. I think 2014 was the last time I presented, so I'm happy to be back here in Tewksbury with a new project to present to you. As Al just explained, it's better if I stand on this side. This is the existing Eco Auto dealership. Al mentioned it was abandoned for several years, and they've brought it back to life. There's an existing single-family house that's on the corner of Main and Rogers Street that they have under agreement.
That's also abandoned, for the record.
Yep, also abandoned. The plan would be to demolish all the existing site improvements, the house, the detached garage, the shed, and construct a new 4,280 square foot building and 44 new parking spaces in between the building and the street. We are maintaining the setback from both streets for the landscaping requirement, the 20-foot parking setback. And you'll see on one of our plans, the landscaping plan, that we're heavily landscaping the frontage on Main and on Rogers, of course with low plants so you can still see when you're pulling out of the street, but also to beautify the front of the property. We're proposing some interior landscape islands, a canoe-shaped one here that separates the existing Eco Auto driveway from the proposed parking. There'll be EV chargers spaced along that. A center bank of 16 spaces with a solar canopy over it. And then an additional 11 spaces here along the Rogers frontage and 9 along the Main Street frontage. We're proposing to maintain the existing curb cut out onto Main Street. As we know, that's a Mass Highway jurisdictional road. And also, we didn't want to propose another curb cut where we're close already to Rogers Street. The existing driveway from the single-family house will be closed off, as well as the side driveway out to Rogers. And we're proposing a new two-way driveway out to Rogers just south of the existing. All our utilities will be connected into Rogers Street, so we shouldn't have to go into Main Street for any reason. Water, sewer, gas, and electric are all off of Rogers. Sewer, there's actually an existing sewer easement that runs parallel to our side property line that we're tying into. We're regrading the site, installing all new drainage that's designed in compliance with stormwater management guidelines. All of the runoff will be infiltrated. In the front, there's a proposed underground infiltration basin consisting of storm tech chambers for 100% infiltration. We did receive on Friday comments from Ms. Lauder and from TEC, the consulting engineer for the board. Obviously, we haven't had time yet to revise the plans, but we also wanted to come before the board in case you had any input that you'd like us to incorporate. We did have the opportunity to prepare a response to comments, which I can, I only thought to bring one copy, but I can email a PDF to you. So we just went line item by line item for both the town comments and TEC comments stating how the plans can be revised. We didn't see anything that was earth-shattering or, something that caused us concern. Some nuts and bolts engineering, dotting our i's and crossing our t's. And we're confident that we can turn around a revised set of plans by the beginning of the week, get them submitted back to the town and to TEC. So hopefully we can be before you at your next meeting with a clean list. I guess with that, make sure I hit all the points I wanted to hit. Yep, also there's a photometric plan included, shows zero spillage at all of the lot lines. And all the lights are shielded, downward facing, so we're not producing any glare on the surrounding streets or the abutting properties. And I'm happy to go, there is some comments, some overlap between town comments and TEC comments. I'm happy to go through them, or I'm happy to work that out with planning staff and go from there. I noticed some of you also have the rendering that was prepared by the architect that gives more of an aerial view than my plan that's presented this evening.
All right,
So I guess with that, yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
we'll start with Mr. Lazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yeah, I guess just a couple of questions from myself, and some of them might be included already in your response. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So kind of looking at this, looks like an expansion of an existing site. I don't see any handicap spaces or pedestrian access kind of throughout. Is that something y'all are anticipating adding?
Yes, so that's actually commented by both the town and TEC. Should just hold on to this. The architect's current plan, that's what I wanted to go over. So the internal layout. So this end of the building is for photo booths of vehicles getting ready for sale. We have 2 detailing bays, so if they're sold and they get, cleaned and ready for delivery. Small office, mechanical room, and bathroom. So really not a ton going on here other than employees of the dealership. Currently, the architect's plan has the front door coming out into the driveway. It was suggested by both planning staff and TEC to potentially reconfigure that so we have some pedestrian access. So we're going to talk to Al and Michelle if it's okay to move that door to this side and then have a small sidewalk. And really, the majority of these spaces would be for display of vehicles for sale. The primary customer traffic would remain at the existing building. But yes, that was noted.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a great addition. Again, just some sidewalks, some crosswalks for folks moving around internally there.
One of the things we want to incorporate in our new site development is actually handicap charging, because we don't see a lot of that.
Okay, sounds like that would be a nice addition. On the topic of chargers, I see there's some kind of flag down on the left side. Are the spaces under the solar canopy, do those have EV chargers as well?
Yes.
Okay.
We're planning on putting a set of infrastructure of about, we just went over it today, about 24 level 2 chargers that will be kind of low intensity, but all charging through the sun.
Okay. And I'm assuming the primary use case there's inventory versus customers coming in and charging?
Yeah, we've kind of outgrown the lot space that we've been developing, and we've been just very well supported by our customer and this community, that we just need more space.
And so we are moving our charging bar that's open to the public right now more up front, so it's more readily available and easier to see from the road. So right now it's kind of tucked in the back by our back 2 bays in our existing building, which in the diagram you can see that we've moved it more in the middle and more up front. So we're actually going to remove our charging bar from where it is and more focus it so people can see it and it's more readily available. So those spaces will be open to the public and available for public charging.
So is it those 8 that are kind of on the left side of this?
Sorry.
12 of them right
These
here.
ones
Oh,
right
12,
here.
okay.
Yep, this will be our charging bar now, because right now it's tucked back here, and it's kind of off, like it's kind of hidden a little bit because we can't, like this is our fire lane here right now, and it's over here. So it's really hard to kind of see it from the street, and we want to make it more available to the public, which is why we're going to make it more of a highlight and a focus so people can see it, and then it will be available 24 hours.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that, it's not necessarily drawn to scale in the sense that each one of those chargers is for 2 spots, because there's 2 dispensers each, so,
2 ports.
yeah. So they will be moved down more evenly across that.
Cool. And those are fast charging, I'm assuming? Great.
We are bringing in a level 3 charger on site. We actually have plans to bring in a 480 kW charger that we've already talked to National Grid. We have all the designs and plans and engineering all laid out for that, because we do want to bring in a little bit more level 3 infrastructure charging for the community.
Great. And yeah, so I think the only other question I have here, we've seen some other projects kind of with these solar canopies, and they were feeding into battery systems. Are y'all planning on doing that, or is this just back to the grid?
No, just charging with solar, back to the grid, whatever is surplus.
I've never heard of that thing you said.
Yeah, we're just not planning on doing that in this site right now.
Great. So yeah, I think that's my questions for now.
Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that was one of the questions I had too. So basically, just doing a net metering, or you're just using the as you plug it in, it's if the sun's out, you're able to charge with it.
Yeah.
What do you do if the sun isn't out?
So our vehicles have batteries, they store the charge, and so if the sun's out, we'd still feed from the national grid,
grid, okay.
from the grid. It's more of a supplement, but at this scale, it could actually bring a net zero impact to the community, to zero and even beyond, giving back to the grid. But if it snows on it.
And I've mentioned this to other applicants as well. It looks like you have at least, some underground structures going in, and some, it's for drainage and some trench drains, and it looks like most of it's probably underneath the pavement. But there's also a pretty comprehensive landscaping plan that you have there. So one of the things that now is the time to do it is to do an overlay with your landscaping plan and your utilities, because there's nothing overhead in your property there. Everything's underground. So just make sure that where you're telling us all the landscaping is going to go, that you're not going to have to come back later and say, hey, we can't put that there because there's an underground electrical line there.
Makes sense.
So you need to coordinate those 2 things.
Thank you.
I wasn't quite sure on what you had in mind for signs. What are you thinking of signs on the new building?
So we have, part of the sustainability center is our commercial line of new EVs. That was our last visit to the board. And those are the signs that you see in the render there. And then as far as we were planning on doing a small sign along the lines of the front, but nothing that wasn't online, just to kind of bring more visibility to the site, because there's been, it's
Okay,
one of
'cause
the
it looked
things.
like the architect just sketched a rectangle on all 4 sides of the new building, and I was just, curious as to whether your plan was to put signs on all 4 sides of the new building.
I see your point, like here and here. I see your point.
So you're only going to have it on the front there? Yeah, I have,
Yeah.
I'm looking at right at
Yeah,
it.
so we were going
right.
to do it on the front, and then maybe
Yeah.
putting a logo there.
Sure,
Yep.
okay. And as far as I know, the entrance that you currently are using off of Route 38 is going to be the only entrance and exit from your space, correct?
We have 2, so there's another one down towards the other end of the property.
Oh, there is, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
on the left-hand side, you can't see on the render.
Okay, so nothing's changing there, though?
No,
No,
Right, but you're just going to add one more to Rogers Street?
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a tough little curve coming out of that entrance right there. I turned into that driveway to turn around, and the house behind it, and I mean, you're blind coming out of that driveway there.
Yeah,
I know that's not you, that's the next door neighbor, but,
Right.
That could be a little bit of an issue there.
you're saying over here
On Rogers?
on Rogers?
Rogers Street, yeah.
Yeah,
They have this big giant bush,
Oh,
set
on
of bushes
this-
at the end of their driveway that it may affect your people pulling out of your people are pulling out onto Rogers Street there. I
You
know
mean-
that's
you
not
mean
your
people coming
concern,
around?
I don't even know quite what to do about that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on the private property, unfortunately,
Yeah.
on the, because this is the edge of pavement, this light gray line, and then that's the state highway layout line. So there's only maybe,
No, I know,
A foot at
I
best.
mentioned it, I know it's not you, I know
Yeah.
it's, but it could be a potential, like, right now, he's only taking his own life in his hands, but with that bush there, but now, if you have customers going in and out of that driveway, then that lack of sightline, looking up
Right.
Rogers Street could be problematic, you know?
so we will, as you mentioned, we will have 3 curb cuts. So there's one off the plan that's over here where the main parking
Yeah,
field
yeah,
is.
yeah.
The existing one to remain, and then
Yeah.
Rogers.
So those are the better ones to use,
Yes.
really?
Right.
Yeah, okay. I think that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duffy. Mr. Fattalia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a couple of questions. I know you have a lot of outstanding issues with TEC that you'll work on this coming weeks, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I won't touch on that. So a couple of my concerns are, is behind the building you're putting up there, are you going to have sufficient blockage so the tenants and buildings behind them that live there are not going to be able to see that building and what you have going on there?
Oh, no, they'll be able to see the building. Unfortunately, there's a sewer easement directly behind the building. So as the other board member pointed out, it's a little challenging to landscape that section of the property. It's cleared now for the sewer easement.
Okay.
There will be a fence as we're continuing onto the property. As
Your
it is
fence
current.
back there, you're saying?
Yeah, there's a fence right now, and we would be continuing it all through to continue with the
Okay,
property.
behind the
Behind the new
existing residential building?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
And
that-
we'd maintain it.
Are you planning on putting some trees in there too or something? Just,
I mean, we would do it to the satisfaction. We don't want to disturb the residential buildings behind there, and we don't plan on putting any visibility from the back.
yeah, they'll be seeing lights and they'll be seeing all that stuff. So my concern is for the residents that live back there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I live in that area as well. I travel that road all the time, you know, so, I mean, I like what you're doing. That building is vacant now, but my concern is for the number of residents that live behind that building, that they have sufficient blockage with trees and all that stuff, so they don't have to see the lights that are going to be on there day and night at your
We're
facility.
comfortable
Yeah,
with
I'm more
that.
than happy to put up some trees.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
absolutely.
haven't seen a landscape plan. I see this design, but
Page 6.
is there one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking for it. I didn't see that, but, so, a couple of other concerns I have is, how many vehicles are you planning coming in and out on a regular basis?
I mean, if I may be honest, as many as we can.
I understand
As we're
that, but
growing,
when you're
but-
traveling down Rogers Street, that's,
Oh, you mean as far as foot traffic, you mean?
no, as far as vehicles coming in and out of your new building site here.
So we don't plan on using that entrance, or that exit, as a main entrance. It's mainly for, because we don't want a lot of traffic on our main stock. That causes damage, people, running around and, go ahead.
So if you look at the plans, like, this mostly is going to be our inventory. So in terms of the public coming into this lane, our directional signs are going to drive them more towards our main building than to use that line. So we want them to come on the main street and then explore our inventory and then essentially leave through our main entrance. That's kind of more of a side entrance. It's not necessarily it's not going to be highlighted like this is the entrance to our property.
I understand that, but people that come into your site are saying this, I'm not going to go out on 38, there's too much traffic. I'm going to go out Rogers Street.
Yep.
And cut through.
Okay.
And cut through the neighborhoods, and that's okay. So that's why my question was, how many vehicles do you expect in and out of your property on a regular basis?
20?
Do you have any idea, or?
I mean, I would say 20 to 30, I would agree with Michelle, and that would be using all entrances.
20 or 30 a day?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we're at full speed.
Okay, all right. That's not a lot at all, but have you been discussing this project with the fire department at all?
Yeah, the fire department actually came and did some training over for some equipment that they just acquired.
We hosted them.
And we hosted them, and we talked to them about this project. So we've been collaborating with the fire department. We've,
Big supporters. Yeah,
Yes.
They came down, they brought their fire trucks or ambulances, and we gave them actually training on how to disarm a car, God forbid it was on fire and somebody was inside, and they really appreciated our training, and they broke down a couple shifts, we toured them in our shop, and they're very excited about the project.
Okay. So in a previous applicant that came in, there was discussion about what happens if the battery charges, if they are there, have a fire. So you're aware of, or the fire department's aware of how to deal with that particular issue.
Yes.
So being able to, diffuse them and get them, not being a hazard to the community and the neighborhood that's there as well, or anybody's, so.
Absolutely.
But
It's
as long
been
as
one
you
of the
keep them in the loop and keep them all aboard as far as what's going on in there, that'll be the best for everybody, so.
Yes.
100% we support that.
So my last question, and I'll let another colleague speak, is how much glare are we going to be getting from these panels at all? Are anybody going to see any glare?
That's a good question. Based on what we've seen, I mean, we can get you a report on that. I don't want to just make up an answer on the spot.
Okay.
Just in an essence of transparency. But from what we've heard from our engineers that we've worked on, is that shouldn't affect traffic at all. That being said, I can't speak to that without
I'd be
actually.
curious as to what,
Yeah.
if there is glare going to be coming off those panels and sending it back towards Main Street or anybody on the other side or any of the residential people in the back as well.
Makes sense. Makes
Okay.
sense.
With that, I'm all set right now. Thank you.
Mr. Dyer. Mr. Champa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me.
It's nice to see you again.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Fratelli definitely highlighted one of my biggest concerns, which is, the building in the back is 25 feet high, and in the rendering, it shows a solar array on top of it, which is maybe 2-3 feet additional, but the highest point of the solar array is at the back of the building, which is closest to your rear abutter. So I would say maybe go as far outside the box as you have to try to, right now I have the Google Earth. There's a lot of green space, trees, shrubberies, all of that. They have a nice pastoral looking view out of the side of their house, as does the people in the street area of Rogers Common there. And so one of the trade-offs, I guess, is we have a green project, but we're destroying a lot of green in the process to change one type of green for another type of green. But for the people that are there, I understand, and the sewer easement, that explains part of it, that you're limited as far as what you can do there. But there may be styles of fencing that, I've seen them where they can interweave ivy and things like that. And, maybe along the top of the roof, there might be something you can do to shield the view from the solar panels, things like that. Maybe your color palette might be able to make it look, a little more camouflaged, as opposed to like a stark white building, which is going to reflect a lot of light and glare from the evening sun into the neighboring property. So again, these are just spitballing here. I'm not, not saying you have to do any of this. I'm just saying think outside the box any way you can to sort of diminish the impact of the visual impact and whatnot of that backside of the building to your neighbor. I can guarantee you that they would appreciate that. Obviously, like I said, they probably have a nice cushion over there of, 75, 80 feet between them and civilization on that left side of their house, so. Or I should say on the 38. No, yeah, left side of their house, so. So that being said, and just want to reiterate, so are you still, right now, you're not doing any sort of fuel cell storage or battery storage out of the array? Everything that isn't being used by the cars is going to go back into the grid?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And do you think that might be something that comes in the future? I know there's been, some issues with those systems as far as chemical containment, warnings.
Yeah, I mean, our property already has a One of the things that we had to go through on our other properties, we have a pond already in the property. So we don't even use pesticides around the pond or anything like that, because we care about our ecological impact. And we can't be Eco Auto destroying the environment. So we really do strive for that. I mean, the nature of our project does mean that we have to redevelop space, but we try to reuse, repurpose, recycle as much as we found. And in no way do we want to impact negatively the area that we're redeveloping. And if anything, we want to enhance that area of Route 38 and what it brings to the town, as well as our neighbors. You know, we hope to be good neighbors. For a automotive facility, we've tried to keep noise down to a minimum. Our facility pollutes almost zero because we don't generate smog on the cars that we're working on, and that's all passed to our neighbors that are not having to smell that either. So that's kind of been a trade-off. And you're right, we do have to get rid of one green to develop another green, but it's which green can do most for our community here. And we think this project, obviously we're a little biased being part of the project, but we think this project can do a lot for our community.
Okay. I'm just curious, why, just the height of the structure, why 25 feet? I mean, is that something future thinking where, I know like Amazon's going to have, battery powered trucks and things like that.
Yeah, so if you drive by our location right now, you'll see we already have some demo in actual live units. We've signed partnerships with 3 major manufacturers for New England distribution for commercial fleet vehicles that are EVs, and particularly we're working with municipalities, small businesses, and other types of usages that have fleets that drive between 100 to 120 miles per day that just want to utilize charging. So with Massachusetts, you can get up to $100,000 in rebates on a commercial EV vehicle, and we're helping electrify fleets. And so this building is going to be used for some of those trucks. Like right now, our Mullen 3, it's comparable to the Isuzu box truck, where we have an all-EV version of that vehicle that gets almost 200 miles of range. Exactly, so we have to drive it in and lift it to be able to work on it.
And meet the clearance that we need to make sure that we can work on it safely with somebody underneath.
Okay. The solar array on top, is there a solar array on top of the existing building now?
No.
Okay, so is all of this solar going in at the same time, or just the canopy part and the one on top of the building and on top of the new building and the existing building, just
all the solar,
showing potential future expansion?
All the solar.
This is all going in the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
We want to bring our net zero impact to zero or below. Plus, our electric bill is pretty high.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so most of it's been covered, but so just for a little bit of clarification, because I know these renderings are always, close but not exact. But the new building, in the rendering, it makes it look as if the panels are sitting below
Like a
on the roof, and then there's edging that goes all the way around. Is that accurate, or is that just a trick of the rendering?
No, that is our design.
So the idea is for those panels to sit below where you wouldn't see them?
At least minimize it, right.
Okay.
Yeah. We are trying to minimize as much as we can
what I'm
with
saying,
the
as
design.
opposed to your old building, which makes it look like they're sitting right on top.
Correct.
Correct, because
Okay.
that's already made that way.
Right.
We can't,
Okay.
we
Right.
we don't.
No,
wanna
that's
really
fine.
affect
I'm
it.
not that I have a problem, I'm just saying that that's important, because if they're actually sitting lower, then that does cut down on the likelihood of them being seen. If they're sitting on top of the roof flat, well, you're definitely seeing them. You can't miss them, because they're up above. That's why I was looking for the clarification.
Definitely.
One thing I would like to see, I'd like to see a rendering that's from ground level. Okay. Instead of aerial, because that makes it easier to see what a person driving or walking at ground level is seeing as they look straight ahead. I mean, if the way those sit, it just looks like a flat roof, and the only way you'd see the panels on, say, that canopy is if you were actually flying a helicopter over the top, well, that matters. If you're staring at it and you're trying to figure out why you can't see anymore because you're having glare in your, well, that matters. So, I mean, the aerial view is nice, but I mean, I'd like to see a ground level rendering similar to this, so I could see what someone walking by, driving by is going to see. Main Street kind of in, Rogers Street kind of in. Does that make sense?
Not a problem.
As far as landscaping, I know you got an issue in the back in terms of, limitations because of the sewer easement, but on the side where the new building would be, just after the driveway, there's sort of that island section
Correct. Yep.
on Rogers Street.
Correct.
Is there anything that would prevent you from putting like evergreens in that? Because you got the neighbor that's on the backside of your property, but you also got somebody across from you. If you
Right.
put up evergreens in that island area to the point where they're not going to mess up with wherever that, sewer easement starts, they're permanent year-round coverage, meaning you're going to have it blocked even in the wintertime of the person looking across and not looking at the side of the all-white, building. They get trees to look at instead when they're looking out the front. It's just,
That is where we have both our domestic and sprinkler water proposed, and our electric, and as you mentioned, the sewer. So there is a little bit of a utility corridor going on there, but to the extent that we can work around those, we'll do that. And as the other member pointed out, the landscape architect is one of my employees, sits in the same area as all the engineers, so they'll certainly coordinate all that to make sure we're not putting trees on top of
but I'd like
electric
you
lines.
to,
But to the
I mean,
extent that
obviously,
we can.
if you can't rework things that have to be there, that's one thing. But if they're there because it's just convenient and there's another place they can be that would allow making this kind of a change where, you can add in this kind of coverage to make it more palatable for where the residential starts.
Sure.
And your business sort of ends.
Yep.
Another alternative may be that white fencing comes up and L's up that side. That shouldn't mess around with any kind of, anything else you're doing over there, because now you're going to have that 6-foot fence coming up at least to where that driveway is. Again, just giving people something, breaking up that view across the street, and you're
Sure.
not staring at just the side of the building.
Okay, no, not a problem.
Now, another thing, and because you're limited in the back and you may have some limitations on the side, one of the things I'm going to suggest is that included in your conditions, if we get to that point, is that the side and back of this building are going to have to be maintained at the same level, as the front of the building. And what I mean by that is, plenty of folks forget about the other side of the building because it's the back and they don't care, because that's not what the customers see and that's not what most people see. But it's not what your neighbor is going to be staring at in the back side or the side of your property. So, the idea is that it can be kept, in perpetuity and kept up, if it's starting to, get run down more so than the front, then it's going to have to get dealt with.
Absolutely.
And something we're going to,
Sure.
hold on to oversight of, to make sure that that's happening, because like I said, it does get forgotten, but your back is the front to somebody else, sort of, from their view. What else? What is?
Already homes here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because you're looking at that side of the building. But I mean, it's unlikely that you're not going to keep up the front of your building. That would be sort of somewhat foolish. It's the
Right.
sides and the back that tend to get forgotten because, they're the sides, the back to you. They're just not that for everybody. So,
That makes absolute
then
sense.
a little more conversation about the driveway on Rogers Street. So what do you envision it being used for? You said you don't really look for having customers coming in and out there, but what would be your idea of what would go in and out there?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. So we have our trucks that are going to be our commercial vehicles. And then there's also a problem that we're trying to solve that's been kind of ongoing, but I think you've probably ran into it. And that is that there is makes it very difficult right now, our current layout, to drop off vehicles that are getting dropped off. So if we're getting a big truckload of cars, they have to park on the side of our neighbor or they have to pull in, and it's really hard for them to pull out, or they have to pull in to the lot in a difficult angle. So we are trying to make that as an easier pull-through for trucks that are coming in, that they can pull in from 38 and go around our building. The other thing is that we have the opportunity to offload the cars as they pull in on 38, and we still have an egress from the building from vehicles that are already being utilized, so they can come in 38 and they can back out and leave. That's one of the things that we're trying to accomplish by joining the two properties, is to creating more of a driving space for us to resolve that problem.
So when you say the trucks dropping off cars, so are you envisioning them, they come down Rogers Street and take a left, or are you talking about them coming out and
38.
leaving that way?
Yeah. They're coming in through 38.
So they come in the front,
Yeah,
and then they'd go down past those charging systems and then hang a right?
yeah,
Go across in front of the new building,
yeah.
they're doing their drop-off, and then your idea is they'd go out, take a right on Rogers to go back up to 38, is that right?
Yep. Yeah, that's one option that we've thought about without going through the stock. The other thing is employees. We want to make it a little bit easier for them to park, and especially in the wintertime. They've been parking, we call it in the West Coast, so across the pond, they have to walk through the pond, and sometimes it gets icy and wet, and it creates a problem for our employees. So we foresee a lot of employee traffic going through there. That's, vehicles
So
going.
just so to stop you on that, so if you have employees going through, where are you thinking they're parking? Are they parking somewhere on this new site, or are you saying they're just driving through there to get to somewhere else?
On inclement weather, there would be parking, we have parking right here on the back of our current site. You just can't see it there.
So you're saying they would drive to where the old building is?
Yes,
They would
they-
just happen to come in that way, you're saying?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Right. So those are some possible usages.
But they
that-
just as possible come in off 38.
Yeah, they could, yes.
Yeah,
Correct,
yeah.
They could go either way, yes.
We just that's why we wanted to keep it kind of out of the way. It's more for our service traffic. As you can see, our service center over here.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what I'm trying to envision.
If I may, it's a unique layout of the existing facility right now. I think if we tried to permit it today, we probably wouldn't be successful, because the building and the parking is so tight to that pond that bifurcates the site. And so the right-hand side of the site, although it's existing for, I don't know how many years since Nissan built the dealership, it's difficult. So we're trying to ease some of that difficultness by being able to loop out to Rogers Street. Because you have the overhang, and you kind of meander around that. There's an isolated island that sticks out, and then you're stuck in a dead end.
So here's another question then, I guess. So your old site across the pond, right now you use it for the vehicles,
Inventory and employees.
inventory of the vehicles. What do you plan on using it for after?
Same thing.
So just more vehicles,
Yeah.
not abandoned
No,
and
no, no,
empty?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. That's our.
That's our prime stock.
So those are, what we found is that there's an area, so we have a big area for stock that you can see off of 38. But the other reason why you haven't seen that our facility or in dealership location, it's kind of has freshened up the type of vehicles, is that any vehicles that we take on trade-in that don't necessarily meet the brand or the eye, they go in the corner. There's a piece of our property behind our adjoining neighbors on that side, and we park those cars over there, so you can't see them off the street.
So, I mean, just because I'm trying to visualize what you were describing, so if a car carrier comes in the front, right, it comes down along the right side of your building, so on the other side of that service overhang, you come in to do service in the old building, right? And you're heading towards those charging stations. A truck carrier can hang a right there in front of the building?
They can, because it's the one piece that it's the clearance in between, and the other piece is that they can actually back out and go back on 38. The problem that we have right now, and if you go to our building.
When you say back out, what do you mean?
So they would go in through 38,
Yeah.
and then they would back into this, they can back into this area.
across the front of the
You have to
building.
hold it up, you're
Oh,
holding it on the ground.
Across the front of the building.
So,
I can hold it for you.
So the truck comes in
so
on
the
38.
truck comes in here,
Yep.
yeah, and it can back into this area, or it can back into this area and leave our property.
Okay.
All right, the problem that we have right now is that when the truck comes in, as Patrick mentioned, we have an island over here and a fire lane that they can't actually perform that drop-off. And it just kind of goes into a dead end. So it makes it really, really difficult, and it just causes, it's been causing issues that we want to resolve.
Okay.
But basically,
But one of the reasons I was asking about the other entrances, I'm trying to think if there's any reason or sense in, trying to figure out any kind of limitations to the use on the Rogers one.
fine.
So, and typically that would be things along the lines of it's exit only, or it's entrance only. So that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around, because, I don't want to completely limit it, because it is possible there could be somebody that's coming up Rogers Street to go, to send them out under 38, just to have them turn into your business. I mean, I don't know how often that's going to happen. It also feels a little silly to me to do, but at the same time, limiting that entrance to very much less use than the other entrance just seems to make sense.
Dropouts only.
You know what I mean? And, I'm just trying to figure out how to make that palatable, both for the intent, but also for, the residents, and just sort of sense, because, it's not the ideal place to be having the most traffic come in and out of that site, you know what I mean? For any reasons, whether that's truck carriers, or it's your, fleet vehicles that are coming in for repairs and that kind of thing. Having them come in and out there constantly is not the best.
The way that you just described it, it made us think that we can make whatever revisions the board needs, but as an exit only, it could actually work, what we're looking to do with it. We don't want a lot of traffic on that area anyways, because it could damage our cars. So if you have, let's just say not everybody's the best driver. So that really can cause an issue and a liability for us. So we would like to limit it as well. We just don't want to limit the flow, meaning the space, as Patrick described.
Well, one of the things I would say is that if you did make it exit only, for example, and that is where, say, if you did have some of the car carriers were going to leave, because if it were to become one-way out, that means them being able to make that right turn would actually become slightly easier, because they have the entire driveway to use to start on the left of it to come out to do its turn. Because if that's a two-way entrance, it has an entrance part to it as well. While they may do it, it's not what they're supposed to do, and that's a pretty tight turn if you're doing a right turn right on top of that island as you're exiting, whereas if you have that entire width to use
No, that makes
to
sense.
come out and take its right.
You just gave me another thought that actually serves a purpose. If there was another truck coming out of here that's being serviced, if it was exit only, you don't have somebody banging on right in here or left and then causing potential issues over there with cars that are coming out. So it really does serve a good purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it's just me, I'm not, nobody else has said anything, so, I mean, the other members can, think about it, we have residents to hear from, so I don't know what, they might tell me I'm crazy and they'd rather see it as entrance only, I don't know.
Yep.
But just to put it in your heads for right this second, and we can revisit it in a few minutes, maybe, after we hear from the residents.
Yeah,
and see if-
one quick thing on that. We just permitted a project in Devens that had a similar concern, passed our project site, switched to residential. And so what we did in that case was we curved the driveway with a larger radius on this side and a smaller radius on that side so limiting
Make the turn
trucks.
easier,
So
but also to
make it
force
easier
it
and
to
also
be
force
only
the
that.
trucks out to
That's a good
38
idea,
rather than
actually.
into the neighborhood.
That makes sense.
I actually
good.
like that idea too.
Yeah.
Okay. And it'd also deter people from,
Yeah, it'd be awkward to go in, yeah.
No, you just say right to turn only.
all right, like I said, we can
Yeah.
revisit that in a
Makes sense.
second. So if you guys are all set for now, I'm going to open it up to the audience. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns? Yep. So we're going to let them come up and use
I
the
was just
podium
making
now.
notes. I'm a big note taker.
I actually like that idea. I think that would be good.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Ackerley. I'm the resident directly behind the south side of the building. Thanks for letting me speak.
If you wouldn't mind, just give the address.
22 Roger Street.
Thank you.
South behind the building. First and foremost, thank you for buying the old Nissan building, because that was a problem with homeless people and whatnot. So good job, and thank you for that. A few concerns I have is, you guys have already touched on a few of them. One of them was the driveway that you were just talking about. I don't want to have a drive-through next to my living room window, which would be a problem for me, having semi-trucks pulling out. I don't think Roger Street is even wide enough for a car carrier to turn out of the driveway onto Roger Street. Roger Street is a dangerous street already with speeding and accidents. Putting more traffic onto the street isn't really a great idea, in my opinion anyways. The utilities that we were talking about going in on Roger Street, I know you mentioned putting up evergreens, possibly, if you can. Are there utilities available on Main Street that you could tie into as opposed to Roger Street? Because that would open up the possibility of planting some evergreens for privacy and whatnot. Another question I had, I don't know what it entails, but the egress that's behind the building. I know it says in the plan the sewer line is being abandoned. Does that mean the egress stays? Does anyone know, or? Oh, I'm sorry, easement.
It threw me off for a second. I was like, there's doors on the back?
I'm sorry. The easement, because I know it runs a little bit under my property, I'm pretty sure too. I'm just curious if it does get abandoned, does that mean can be used, or does it have to
If
stay?
it shows as an easement, it's an easement until someone, does something about that.
So the plan shows the existing drain line that's there it says abandoned. I don't know if they're the only one, I don't know.
Yeah, but the lines may be abandoned, it doesn't mean the easement is abandoned.
Would you
But
like me to clarify?
Yep,
you can just do it.
I just saw it in the plan, so I thought I'd
Sure.
ask.
Through the chair, the purpose of the easement is to provide sewer to the existing building across the property that wasn't owned at the time. Now that they're purchasing the other property, the easement doesn't need to be there because they don't need to give an easement from themselves to themselves, but the sewer line will still be there.
Oh, so it's still in use?
Yeah, the sewer line's still in use,
For the
it's just the...
existing Eagle building?
Correct.
Okay. One of my other concerns was from my backyard, we have, like you guys mentioned, we have nice big trees, greenery. We can't see Main Street. You can't really see the existing Eagle building because there's all big trees and whatnot there. And they plan to tear everything down and put up a 30-foot tall concrete wall. So if there's a way to get some evergreens in there and kind of, you know what I mean? It's just,
If we can do it, we will definitely, if we can do it.
I know the easement causes issues,
we
but,
will.
I mean, if you can slide the building forward 5 feet and maybe make room for trees, I know it's,
Yeah,
whatever can be done.
I'm happy to do.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add to this conversation?
Yep.
I was thinking, while my colleagues were speaking here about the back of the building, it's a big rectangle, but the plan shows that it looks like it's going to be wood construction as far as I can gather there.
No, steel
exterior.
construction.
It's a steel building.
Oh, it's a steel building? With a wood sheathing, though?
Metal panel siding, insulated metal sandwich panel siding.
Oh, it showed on the plan zip wall with, on the wall types. It showed zip wall, but anyways, I guess my point is, regardless of, and that was on page, let's see, page T1.1, had some wall types. So, and it showed an exterior wall cut.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's a mistake, but
They're
let's,
just updated, yeah.
okay.
There's been some revisions since these were prepared.
Okay, well, what I was going to get at is that it showed, there's an arrow saying that there's going to be cladding in the exterior, but it doesn't specify any cladding. And to Mr. Champa's point about doing something to the back of the building to kind of, make, blend it in with the environment a little bit more somehow.
So the bottom was going to
You have a wide open palette there, and, you should be able to do something either with a color scheme or whatever, if your architect, does a little work on that. And I think the idea, whoever's idea it was, to put the parapet wall to kind of hide the edges of the building, and it's 25 feet to the top of the parapet, so that would be, you wouldn't see the side, you wouldn't see the solar panels. Yeah, I don't know, you might see them peeking out the top. That's an answer that you're going to get for us, right? Like how much of it you'll see. So, yeah, no, that's a pretty legit, you don't want to look at a big white box. But I think that it should be something that there should be a solution to. Yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
And that's about all I had. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I think that's it from me.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else with any questions, comments, or concerns? Come on up.
So my name's Matt Regis. I own the property at 7 Rogers Street, which is right across the other corner, the corner of Rogers and Main. So I had a few concerns as well. Most of them have been, sorry, I don't know if you can see me around. Most of them have been addressed by the board here today, but one of them is that driveway on Rogers. I don't know how wide that's going to be, if it's going to be wider than it is now, but I question if these trucks that are dropping these cars off, it's not a flatbed with a car on it. These are trucks pulling a trailer with 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 levels. I don't know if they're going to be able to make that right. I'm sure that at times they're going to have to drive. I don't mind if they drive on the grass that I have there. It's fine. But there is a fire hydrant right there. There's also a lot of traffic that comes whizzing, particularly cars coming south on Main Street that are taking a right onto Rogers. I think you're going to have an accident concern with some of those trucks coming onto the other side of the road and cars whipping around that corner. I've lived in that house for 12 years. I've seen several major accidents in front of that house just because people don't wait or they're not paying attention. I think that's a concern that should be looked at. There's also, they have children, there's 4 kids right there. There's other kids on the street. There's a bus stop right there. You got big trucks pulling out, they're little kids, they're running around, they're not paying attention. Never know.
Just to hold you up, just because this is going to connect up to what we were talking about with that angled driveway. If that's something that you're going to set, I guess having a radius turn plan to
Yes.
show that you're
Yep,
creating
we
a
can
driveway in
run
which
that. Yep.
they won't need to cross the center line on Rogers Street.
Yes.
When they're coming out. If it's curved enough, they shouldn't have to cross all of Rogers Street to take a right.
We can run that in auto turn and show you the swept path.
We want to just add something for the record, and I just want to make sure that we, as the owners of Eco Auto and what we're trying to build here, make known that, and we want to make sure that we are working on this as a community. We're trying to redevelop a spot that has been, it's been neglected for some time, and no fault of their owners, and same thing with 623. So if in any way it would make it easier to not have that egress there, we're open to it, as long as it doesn't cause any issues with the fact that we are building a building there, So if we can work together on the design of this and figure out the best solution, because really, we're just trying to find, we have everything lined up, and we just want to make sure that we are doing this in a way that we're working together. Would that be something that would violate anything on the engineering side?
No, the only thing we'd have to do is just rerun the fire truck swept path analysis
Yes.
That's what I
anyways.
was going to
So
mention.
what
Yeah.
we could do in something like that, though, as we've done with some of the other sites, is you make it
Gated.
gated off with the emergency
need it,
vehicle
yeah.
only use.
Fine.
You could still have that curved driveway, which in another emergency situation, for some reason, might allow a vehicle to come out once in a while for emergency purposes. But otherwise, you're talking about emergency vehicles only, but you'd be making that turn easier for the fire department as well with that curved driveway.
Yeah.
And your sweep path is going to make it a lot easier
Right.
anyways, if the driveway's curved.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, if the auto turn works for the fire and truck traffic, and we don't need Rogers Street, and we could pick up a few parking spaces. Parking spaces are everything in the car world, so that's probably the route we'll go, so I'll run both options.
Okay.
Again, give it to Michelle and Alan, and we'll get back to you.
All right, so you're, go ahead.
I had one other concern. I don't know if we're done with that one, but the other concern I had was in regards to the 24-hour charging. I'm not sure I understand the need for that. I mean, I'd assume if you're part of the community and you have an electric car, you're probably charging your car at home. I'm not sure who we're trying to bring in at 2, 3 in the morning to charge their car in the parking lot.
So.
And this isn't a gas station or restaurant. People are in and out in 10 minutes. They're going to be there for an hour or two, I'd imagine.
Hours.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Was there an answer? I'm sorry.
There is,
Okay.
and it's related to actually state funding and also the outreach that's happening right now on environmental justice communities. We are in a green community, and we're also next to a couple of environmental justice communities. And one of the biggest challenges right now in the adoption of electric vehicles and sustainable vehicles is the availability of infrastructure. To the point that even Walmart has the fast chargers, and we have customers that come to us all the time saying, you know, they're there, but they're down. I can't use them. So part of the Massachusetts Clean Energy Project is to be able to make charging infrastructure available 24/7 to people, and that's not per us. That's per the state. So we want to make this available for our community. And not all of them will be available for 24/7 use. Our fast charging will. So to your point, it's not going to be like people are going to be there, you know, posted up for 4 hours. They're going to be fast charging chargers to the point that we spoke to earlier, 480 kW, to be able to provide people a full charge and the ability to safely get home at any time.
Right. They'll also, I'd like to add to that, they'll also be close to the existing building where it's going to be well-lit and under surveillance, so that hopefully would deter anything that the abutter would be concerned about.
Mr. Chairman, I can also add a little bit of color to this as well. So we have a couple of municipally owned charging stations throughout town, and I can confirm that our charging stations at the DPW, because they were funded through a public grant, they do have to be available free of charge to the public whenever possible, so.
Okay, I mean, I don't have a problem with the public charging. It just seems strange that at 3 in the morning, somebody needs to be.
Yeah, it's a part of the state's
It's not like
overall
it's right up a highway or immediately off a highway, so.
Yeah, it's a part of the overall initiative that when they're providing funding for these charging stations, the idea is that they're supposed to be as accessible as often as possible.
Yeah, living across the street, I'm just a little bit concerned, you know,
Sure.
who's going to be walking around and doing whatever over there, so. I think that's all I had, thank you.
Thank you.
So along those same lines, obviously, that I would like to see then, if you're going to have those, that they would be the ones over by the building, for the other reason being that in the event somebody were coming in there to do a late-night charging, then the people across the street aren't having the headlights staring them in the face while they're sitting there, you know what I mean, or pulling in or whatever. It's just this way, it's all facing the building.
Yep.
And it's all internal to the site and not right on the external siding.
Yep.
Just, you know, it's just, you know, neighborly to not have the headlights
Yeah, and if we block off the Rogers.
flashing across.
If we block off the Rogers for emergency reuse only, then 24 hours that.
They won't even be
they
leaving,
won't
right,
using that
exactly.
driveway
I'd be
anyway.
Which probably helps you too, because you don't want the folks that are coming in to charge their late night driving through your stock.
Yeah.
To-
No,
So-
they could get a new set of wheels that way. Quick question that I had for our neighbors that are here, and I just want to ask for reference. Has it posed an issue currently, the charging? Because we have charging 24/7 available right now. And we do have customers come in at all hours of the day. So I just want to understand if we already are disturbing, and if we are, then we will address it.
Well, I'll let you guys have that conversation afterwards amongst
Okay.
yourselves
Yeah,
if you
fine.
want, because that wasn't brought up now.
Okay.
But also
Okay,
just
cool.
keep in mind, the reason I think it's getting their attention now is you're one whole property piece closer now than you were before.
Sure.
That's why I'm sure it's more of a
closer
thought now,
neighbors.
you know? Yeah, closer neighbors, exactly. All right, so
Makes
with
sense.
that, is there anybody else with any questions, comments, or concerns at this time? All right, so I'll bring it back to the board. Anyone at the board, any extra comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of comments. I travel Rogers Street regularly. I live off of Rogers Street. So like the neighbor said, it's a very, very busy street. You come down Rogers Street with Old Boston Road right there, and going left, going right, is there any way of removing the access off of Rogers and making another access off of 38?
No.
No?
I don't
I
know
mean,
if
there's a
you've
house
had,
there.
I don't know if you've had the pleasure of dealing with Mass DOT recently.
Oh, it's part of the plan.
We'll see you in 2026 if we get a response. But no, in all sarcasm aside, there's 2 curb cuts to the property now, serving the dealership. I think with the proximity to Rogers,
Yeah.
there'd be no chance of us getting through MassDOT to get another curb cut.
It's a separate parcel. There must be a driveway access there now. Is it off of Rogers? I mean,
I would, 24 years of doing this,
Pardon me?
with full respect, I just don't see it ever happening.
So right now, it's off of.
There is 2 driveways
There's 2
existing.
driveways.
On Rogers and
Yeah.
on the main.
But it's a residential driveway, Mass DOT says, it's apples and oranges. They don't care if there's a residential driveway and you want to put a commercial driveway.
well, my concern is the traffic on Rogers Street and you trying to get trucks coming out of there.
Right,
out of
and
your
I think-
facility. So that's just,
I
I don't
think
think
we've
it's
got
going
a
to
good
work getting a truck
solution.
through there myself, so.
Yeah, I think we have a good solution for the Rogers Street based on us running the auto turn and seeing if we don't need it at all. We'll eliminate it and we'll extend that parking row a few more spots closer to the building.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be.
It's a very busy street. I don't know whether you drive it or not. I drive it regularly, and the residents in the back can say the same thing. I know it. It's a very, very busy street. People flying up and down Rogers all the time, coming off 38, so.
Yeah.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? All right, so with that,
I had just one quick thing
Yep.
that's, and obviously you guys will take it to vote, have the conversation, but what, we will make whatever changes we need to. Our only goal today was to present this to the board and see if we could get the just preliminary permits so we can work with our financing company, get everything done, and we will make whatever revisions you need us to.
Need a bond.
And obviously, we would need some information on the bond and whatever else, but we just want to make sure that you understand that these comments will be taken into revision, and we will make sure that those changes.
only, I'm not sure, the thing you were just describing isn't something we'd be able to give a preliminary okay. It's really kind of an okay or not.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
We would like to
you
know
we
if you're
got
okay.
You got some more work to do. I don't think you've heard anything this evening that was, crushing. There's obviously some work. You definitely have some stuff that you need to deal with the engineering comments and that kind of thing. But even I think from the comments from the abutters, I didn't hear, any sort of crushing commentary this evening. But as far as, preliminary approvals, we can't really do that. It's either kind of up or down. The only thing that sometimes happens if there's something that, we say we need, we're approving it, but you need to provide X, Y, Z before
Got it.
you get the full approval.
Okay.
But the bottom line is that's not going to probably get you what you're talking about anyways, because the
would.
finance
That actually
isn't
would.
going to.
That would help us.
A lot.
Yeah, but either way, you're not at that point anyways.
That makes
That's a further down the process anyways. I mean, that's when there might be a T to cross or an I to dot, not all of engineering's comments to address, which is what you are right now.
Okay.
So at this point, we would be continuing
Well,
this to...
Mr. Chair, if I may, I did have one question relative to the town comments.
Yep.
Particularly 3.6.4C1, and that's whether or not the board feels a full traffic study is warranted. My opinion is that it's not. It's been an existing dealership. The number of spaces that we're adding is,
And again, I'll let any of my fellow board members correct me, but if you're looking at potentially not using the Rogers Street entrance, exit, egress, whatever, I would think that would be unnecessary to have a traffic study for the 38 portion. The only traffic that I'd be concerned with would be Rogers Street. How your site was going to affect that. So, I don't know, Ms. Lowry, unless you have some different opinion.
Speaking as someone who is absolutely not a traffic engineer, anecdotally speaking, I would tend to agree with you. So it's really, but it really is up to the board members whether you folks think that that is warranted. But as Mr. McCarty noted, that's something that has a bit longer of a lead time that they would need to know about right
I guess
now.
this would be my thought. What you're proposing here is the major use of this site is for the storage of your display vehicles to be sold only on to whoever happens to come in
Correct.
any given day looking
Right.
for a vehicle, which, as you pointed out earlier, is not exactly a 1,000-car a day kind of thing. This isn't that kind
Right.
of turnaround. So, I mean, and again, if you're not using Rogers Street or very, very limitedly using Rogers Street, for emergency vehicles only, I don't see the need for telling us what's going on 38. We already know that. Like,
Right.
we've been through that.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. If someone disagrees, say so.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. I think we've seen enough traffic study information on Route 38.
Yeah, I mean, if this was a more
for multiple
high-impact
businesses
type
that
use.
It doesn't seem necessary.
I agree, you have the
I
ability to
understand.
impose
That's why I
that, so we
wanted
just
to
want to
pass
make
it
sure
out
we
now.
leave tonight with clear direction,
So,
because
I mean,
that would
nobody-
take time.
Nobody has any objection, that would get revisited, obviously, if you come back and say, we can't work this Rogers Street thing, we need that for traffic going in and out, now we're back in a different problem, okay? So if you guys get to the point where you're like, no, we got to have Rogers Street, I'd get moving on a traffic study because we're going to ask you for it. All right? So I guess those would be your best marching orders on that. Does that make sense?
That's crystal clear, thank you.
All right, excellent. All right, so with that, I will entertain a motion to continue this to 7:10 at our 9:23 meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion made, do I have a second? Motion made and seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. There it is. All right, moving on to agenda item correspondence. We have one correspondence in the package this evening. That's a community outreach meeting notice for, it's from 7/23, and this is for, what did it say? Curaleaf, Massachusetts, adult use marijuana retailer. And where's the scheduled? September 11th, 6:30, Hilton Garden Inn, Tewksbury. So if anybody's interested, I'm sure that's otherwise posted as well, but since we had it. All right, moving on to other business not known at the time of the posting of this agenda. Is there any such business any of the members wish to discuss?
I have a question for Alex, if I could ask her.
Please.
Any interest or anything movement on the old Discount Madness site up there?
There have been some inquiries about the zoning in the area and the allowed uses, but not a whole lot.
Okay. Reason being, driving 38 the other day, I had seen 3 or 4 kids in that lot playing with the circuit breaker box.
Good.
That's still active and it's tied into that panel across the street. So I would suggest if they're not going to be using that panel, that facility for a while, maybe they call it disconnect that service box. I hate to see kids in there playing with something and something happening and, see something, tell somebody. So I figured I would bring that up, that's all.
Sure.
Anything else? Any other items? All right. Moving on to adjournment. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
A motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.